Welcome to the DGTL Growth Podcast, where marketing leaders share real wins and the challenges behind them. I'm Suse Barnes. Today we're talking with Steve Wiideman, CEO of Wiideman Consulting, a search marketing consultancy. Steve, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Sue. You're actually my hero today because you pronounced my last name correct, which is very rare for a first time.
Well, I'm happy I did that. How was your weekend?
It's been great. We have a new kid at the house, a grandkid, and so it's been life with babies at home, and it's been a lot of fun. Just adorable little boy, and really happy for my daughter and her fiance. So it's been an interesting one, but yeah, it's adorable.
Well, congratulations. That sounds
Yeah.
amazing. And you mentioned you're going to Disneyland later. That must be with
Yeah, I did
another.
a little bit of work this weekend, and we've had it a little bit crazy and loud at the house for obvious reasons. So decided to take my wife to an afternoon of enjoying some of this beautiful weather we're getting, and maybe hang out with a mouse and this goofy, right? This goofy guy.
Fantastic. Tell us about Wiedemann Consulting and what you do as an SEO consultant and your vision for the growth of the company.
Sure, that's a great question. And I think if you were to ask any brand in search marketing right now, you'd find a lot of ambiguity, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknowns. We've found our niche to really be around franchise and multi-location brands. So we work with folks like Applebee's and Dave's Hot Chicken and Qdoba and these brands that have hundreds, sometimes thousands of locations, and they're trying to figure out how to scale. Something that we've sort of fell into through one of our contracts and ended up sort of being the guys that you go to when it comes to creating a strategy to scale multi-location search marketing. So while we have clients that are in other industries, our focus and what we've seemed to become really good at is helping brands that have a limited internal team to build out a strategy for tech, for content, for local, for off-page, and for how to track and manage KPIs around search when, again, you've got a limited team to work with. Companies will bring us in. It takes us about, a month or two to put a strategy and a plan together, including a whole site taxonomy and site structure, re-architecture in some cases. And then we stay on as a wingman to help them through the implementation. So we'll get on a twice monthly call and check in. We'll start with the tech team and seeing how our impact effort matrices are playing their role in making sure our task management is organized the way it should be. We'll get with the content teams and make sure that they have everything they need for content that's in scope for their campaigns, and maybe even some evergreen content that we recommended out the gate. We'll talk with them and sometimes their platform that they work with for managing their business data across the web. Some cases it's Yext, others it's Rio SEO or Bright Local or Uberall or Sochi or many of the other brands that are out there that manage the business data and location pages to make sure that we're fully optimizing around everything we're doing, from business categories to reputation to fields that we could be utilizing that we might not be, to make sure that we're just doing the best we possibly can at the local level. And then lastly, we'll talk with their PR teams if they're available around some of the off-page SEO efforts. Maybe it's a free meals for Veterans Day promotion on in November that we could get the VA and military-related websites to mention and maybe even link to. So our job is, again, just to sort of set the stage, to hold the map and the navigation and the compass, and to help our clients and their individual teams through the work that has to happen, to see the best results from search. And now more than ever, is paying attention to AI and ChatGPT, and how are we thinking about the prompts and the ways that we're making sure our clients appear for those? Are we creating intent pages underneath each location for specific things like takeout and delivery and specials? Are we looking at our FAQs to make sure that we're answering questions that might actually be prompts that potential customers might be making? How are we optimizing the content itself so that it's retrievable by some of these large language models in a way that's clear and concise and with no ambiguity, so that we're writing content not just for users but also for the modern day search engines and evolving platforms. So it's a fun journey and adventure that continues to change and scare some folks but also excite others, and it's an industry we're really proud of. And I imagine from your question that in 6 to 12 months from now, our new website will be launched. focused primarily on franchise and multi-location brands. My new book, SEO at Scale, should be hopefully published in mid-December, if not early January, to address some of the challenges that we have in the world of multi-location search. And by next year, you'll probably find me at some of these conferences and events with a booth and a stack of these books, talking to people about multi-location and how we can support their strategy. And I think that's where we're going to end up by the end of next year, is breaking completely out of the broader niche of search and getting into a more specific niche of multi-location and franchise.
Fantastic. SEO at Scale, I'll look for that. You said it's coming out mid-December or early December?
That's my plan. I got 2 more chapters to do, and my bandwidth this month looks crazy. So hopefully I can get to them.
Are you self-publishing then?
I'm working through a third party.
Okay, nice. Multi-location, is that sort of a newer niche, or are you just pivoting to all of that?
It's
Or do you
been
do?
something I've been in for years, but never
Okay.
exclusively. I think the biggest multi-location account I started with was in 2008. We were working with Extra Space Storage in conjunction with another SEO company that was working on the organic side. We were working more on the maps and local search side. That was probably 800 locations to work with Extra Space. And then from there, we picked up some really fun accounts like Public Storage, which is a competitor of the original brand I mentioned. We had 4,000 locations with that one. And that was, no pressure. We're average position 2 and the stakeholders want to be average position 1. Like, wow, okay, that's not hard at all, right? So, but it worked, and a lot of trial effort testing, adding videos and unique images and alt attributes to photos on the site, and lots of little things like that that we kept testing that played into our success there. We won an award in 2014 for Meineke Car Care Centers. It was by Placeable. It's called their NatLo Top 30 in Marketing. And what was interesting about that particular account is we realized that we had hundreds of locations to work with that all had individual services, and some of the local businesses, the mom and pops, had a single page of content for things like oil change or muffler repair, transmission repair, things like that. And it was really difficult to scale. So we created a dynamic framework that enabled us to create these specialty pages underneath each location. I think we ended up with like 12 different pages. And it was the first time I think any multi-location brand had created content that deep in the site structure. It wasn't just state and city and an instance for each of them, but it was state and city and specialty. So if you did oil change in Anaheim, California, for example, you would see an actual page that's underneath the Anaheim silo that was specifically for oil changes. And that was pretty exciting. Plus, we did some things with blogs and, link bait and video and areas like that that made a difference. But yeah, I think I've sort of inadvertently always been part of multi-location. Hot chicken was kind of an interesting one because we'd worked with Blaze Pizza, and our contact there's name was Dave, funny enough. We also worked with IHOP, and the CMO there was Brad Haley. And so when both of them moved over to Dave's Hot Chicken, they both asked each other, hey, who should we be using for SEO? It's like, well, I worked with the Wiedemann guys at Blaze. No way, I worked with them at IHOP. Let's bring them in. And so it all kind of happens, through doing a good job for clients. And when
Awesome.
they move to different places, they usually bring us with them.
Yeah, that's excellent. How many people do you have on your team, Steve?
Right now, we're right around 10.
Okay.
So a hybrid of contractor and employee. Employees are those that will come into the office, and those that are too far or just not able to are contractors.
Mm-hmm. Super. And what innovations are you seeing in the industry?
AI.
AEO, GEO, AI based, right? Is
I
that the
definitely
main one that you're
see.
seeing?
It's so many different
Yeah.
abbreviations. It's interesting. The enterprise platform that most people use is called SEMrush, right? And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
SEMrush is labeling it their AIO platform. So we've been using that more often than anything if we need to cross-reference a name for something. Fundamentally, it's really just making sure that we're found online. The big question is, the big fear is, with AI coming into existence, do we care about SEO anymore? And my answer is always, why are people going to stop searching? Right. So as long as someone's searching, there's an opportunity to be found. And yeah, maybe we won't get a click every single time. And that's okay, because it's not always about the click. It's about building, brand equity. It's about building visibility and trust. It's about making sure when people are performing, an array of different types of searches, that they're always finding us somewhere. And like, this must be the brand to work with, because they're everywhere I look for this type of content. And so I think the expansion of it all, of taking our myopic view of Google blue link black text search into, now let's really structure some great pillar and supportive peripheral content, and make sure that it's all represented everywhere online, in social search, in LLMs and chat GPTs and Geminis, so that we're represented everywhere somebody might search for us, and have all the required citations to be a preferred answer by some of these new AI technologies. It is a bit of a bubble still, I feel like, and I might be wrong, but I do feel like there's thousands of AI platforms coming out to help manage SEO and other aspects of digital marketing. And I feel bad for a lot of those folks that have put millions of dollars into some of this tech, because at some point it's going to hit a level where there's just not enough customers for each of those platforms to have a viable business models. Um, it's exciting watching folks like Nightwatch and SEMrush and Search Atlas creating some really great ways to use AI to help with the creation and implementation of recommendations like titles and descriptions and content and headings and topics that we should have on our pages. It's exciting to see the tools that enable us to create really rich media with images and videos that we could use on our pages. But the reality is, the human spirit isn't one that is really going to look at a page partially or completely written by AI and say, this is a company I want to hire. They're going to want the real owner in a video saying, hi, I'm Joe from Joe's HVAC company. We've been in business 16 years and we specialize in these things. And it cuts to a testimonial by a client. Hi, I've been using Joe's for 12 years and they fixed my sink. Right? So I think the vision of where we think the technology might go might be a bit askew from what human experience is really looking for. And so we have to have a balance between the two. And while we're doing a lot of testing and deploying a lot of really cool things, I don't know that it's in 3 to 5 years going to resonate with users in the same way that our firsthand experience might. So I feel like there's a lot of opportunity now for business owners that want to really dominate in terms of search, whether it's social search or LLMs or traditional search engines, to start really creating authentic content the way that they probably should have been for years. But now is the chance to really get ahead, because everyone's so focused on technique that they haven't stopped to think about strategy, and be the one that thinks about strategy and don't worry so much about the technique.
Mm-hmm. And it really is the search everywhere optimization, right? Not search engine necessarily. People
Right.
think
Yeah,
of
we've been showing it
DGTL-us.
like in layers,
Yeah.
right? We show Google first. They
Yeah.
they perform that non-branded search. Look at their search market share. They're still exactly where they were, a
Mm-hmm.
couple years ago. Maybe one or two off because of Bing. But then the next step is, okay, well, great. I did a search. Now I'm going to go to social search and look at what my peers say. Look at what my influencers say. Look at what social media says about this particular brand or product or both. And then they're going to go to the LLMs and they're going to do some comparison shopping. They're going to look for
Yeah.
reputation cues. They're going to do deeper research into understanding the products, the services, and the brands that they're interested in. And then they're going to come back to search and perform a brand search or repeat the non-brand search and see us as an option and go, yeah, I remember seeing them in social search and I remember seeing them in LLMs. That's one of the brands I need to hire, because we took the time to make sure that all of the different things that we offer are represented in each of those different platforms. Reddit, included, because it's part of that kind of citation and research element. So yeah, I think the journey went from go to Google, perform a search, click, buy a product and be done, or a service, to 90 seconds going to Google, then going to social search, then going to LLMs, and then going back to Google where they make the final decision. So I feel like the journey's changed quite a bit. And like you said, everywhere is important, and everywhere plays a key role in our visibility in the places that matter the most, which is in search. I think that's a viewpoint I think everybody is frustrated by, because now it's not just, create a great page on your website, earn some links to it, and really craft a strong, rich search result so that people want to click on us more often. to now we've got to think about all these other places and how we're optimizing and sharing that optimized chunk of content across these different places. And it is a lot more work. It's a lot more consideration. And you got to think about it in a way that isn't spam heavy, because a lot of it's like, what, I got to blast the web with my content that feels like, 2003's, video blasting software. But the reality is, if we can get our clients involved in that process, our customers involved in that process, so when they're at point of sale, they're motivated to want to share something on Reddit or Instagram, because they love our brand and they want to show the world how we're great, and not just be told, go to Google Business Profile, go to Google Maps and leave us a review. So I think there's a narrative shift in how we're communicating to our clients, which is probably one of the reasons, if I think about it, why the Google Action Console and Google Voice died, is because there was no translation or training between the developers who built the product and the marketing teams and how they communicate it to customers. Nobody knew to go to Google and say, talk to and name the brand, because there wasn't the training from the folks that developed it to the marketing teams that were supposed to be conveying how they use that technology in commercials and videos and online. So I feel like we're kind of in that same point now. It's like we got to do all this stuff that feels spammy, but if we're creative, we don't have to. We can get our customers to willingly do it, in a way that's, eventually has us being the answer to all these crazy prompts that people are making now.
Mhm. And I think Google, the official search engines will also start implementing more of what everyone else is doing, right? So that they're taking into
Are you
account
seeing
the
that?
everywhere piece. Sorry?
Huh? You're seeing that? You're seeing that now?
Well,
Like,
I think,
I
I mean, they will. I mean, that if they start to see any drop off, they're going to want to know why, and start looking at, okay, these sites are everywhere, so we need to, include that in our algorithm now, right?
or in our blended SERP, right? I totally get
Yeah,
that. So have
exactly.
you downloaded the new like comment browser from Perplexity, or the ChatGPT browser? What's the name of
I
it?
did, but I'm not too excited about it because apparently there's some
Pugs.
pretty heavy bugs and some holes in it security wise.
It's Atlas. And so if you look at Atlas, this is why
Yeah.
I get nerded out on this stuff. It's really kind of fun. If you look at Atlas, it's got your chat GPT search results, but it also has options at the top to do web search, image, and video. And I
Uh-huh.
imagine that Google, when they finally roll out this AI mode as the default, already it's an option in the search bar, but when it's a default, we're going to see them emulate what ChatGPT did and took that extra bit of tabs, so that they don't just say, hey, user, you're forced to use AI mode. You can actually go back and look at traditional web search results if that's
Mhm.
how you like to search, or you can view videos, or you can view images, etc. So I imagine, like you said, they will piggyback off each other based on how users interact and how they actually use some of those different tabs. But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad you mentioned that, because I see ChatGPT doing that with Atlas. And I'm like, yeah, I see what you're doing.
yeah. And I think, the algorithms are changing all the time. Change is the only constant, especially in digital marketing.
Just look at it as incremental, though, right? Don't look at it as everything's changing. We have to redo everything. It's
No,
incremental.
no.
Fundamentally,
Yeah.
if we've still got the best, most helpful page of content for a query, if we've got other websites that are mentioning us, voting for us by linking to us, sharing us online, and in a way that's provoking brand queries and brand modified searches, where it's our brand plus some of the keywords we want to appear for, since our search result is the most compelling, and they want to click on us because we show our value proposition and a strong call to action and titles and descriptions. Fundamentally, those are the three things that are going to never really change for search. We have great content. We have other websites voting for us, telling us it's great content, and we've got people choosing us more often than the competition in a search result. Fundamentally, those three things haven't changed. It's just how we're rewriting content to be more concise and retrievable, and how we're being a little bit more clear, and maybe even rephrasing things a little bit so it's obvious, what our topic, our content's about. So yeah, I think you're right. I think there's dynamic changes in how algorithms work, but fundamentally relevancy, popularity, and search behaviors are always going to dictate who's going to have the longest term rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Steve, what's working well for you in your business and what has been frustrating?
I think you mentioned it already. This AI, it's exciting, it's new. I think people care maybe more about it than they need to be. I think it's important to pay attention to it, but all of the inbounds that we've received in the last 8 months have been exclusively for I need to have a plan for AI, not I need to make sure that my site is set up for traditional search and that we're doing all the right things in terms of taxonomy and content roadmaps and an off-page SEO strategy. It's exclusively AI. And if you look at the referral traffic from ChatGPT, you'll see it's almost borderline crazy that that's all that business owners and stakeholders care about right now. I think it's important to care about it, but to focus exclusively on that, it's what was it that Jim Rohn said? That you don't have to do extraordinary things to be successful. You only have to do ordinary things extraordinarily well. And I feel like a lot of brands are losing sight of that, and they're focused on trying to do something extraordinary, in an ecosystem where they just need to make sure they get their most important tasks taken care of first. So what's working really well is our roadmap for multi-location is still doing exactly what we'd hoped it would. It's creating important location pages and making them as localized as we can, creating intent pages for all those different reasons somebody might look for a restaurant example would be for specials or for takeout or for delivery or specific menu items, maybe even restaurant jobs. I think that has played into our traditional search strategy. Now we see those as citations in AI. So it kind of all worked out, even though it wasn't part of the original strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's working really well still. What I've also seen a shift in, as opposed to using 50 different tools and softwares and SaaS systems, it's really now us taking as much data that we already have free access to, piping it into BigQuery, and doing a little bit of our own logic to create the output and reports that we need to be able to pay attention to, caring a little bit less about keywords finally, and
Hmm.
caring more about our visibility around specific topics or areas of focus that are important to the business outside of just where do we show up for a keyword. I think that's been a significant shift that's probably going to double down on the bubble burst on all this great software that's coming out, is that we really don't need it as much as we think we need it. What's not working right now? That's a good one. I don't know that but what's not working, I think, in our industry is the demand, right? There used to always be this really predictable demand. Every month, I would hop on a few sales calls and talk through audits and strategies and things that clients need to do, and this shift in what's happening in the industry and evolving platforms and AI and social search has really left prospects with less of an urgency to try to sign up for work with an SEO agency, consultancy, or otherwise. I feel like all of my peers are saying the same thing. Nobody's signing contracts. Prospects are thin and far and few. Outbound doesn't work at all. It's got to be someone coming to you or make a recommendation to you, and then instead of it leading to a call that leads to a contract being signed, it leads to being ghosts, right? Being ghosted, and it's like, it's the weirdest thing. I've never really been ghosted in my whole career. And all of a sudden, you have this great call with someone, and then you schedule the next call and they don't show up and they don't respond to emails. They're still there. They just don't respond. It's really, and I think a lot of it isn't personal. It's just these people have so much going on. They have so many responsibilities. They have to prioritize their time. And, part of that is I just have to let stuff go. And I end up being part of, what gets let go in some of those conversations, which is
Hmm.
not something to. Usually it's, hey, we're just really busy right now. Hey, we need to hold off for now. Hey, that we had a discussion. We're probably going to hold off till next year. That's usually what happens. But the way the industry's been going, there's just it's ghost town out there, and the uncertainty, the scarcity of everything is just it's just really kind of a weird ecosystem right now.
Do you think people are waiting for more technology, like the next versions of AI to drop? And,
Be it could be like a dust settling thing, right? For
yeah.
sure. And that's kind of what I was hoping would happen with our industry, is instead of everybody saying, here's what we found, here's what we should do, here's what we've reverse engineered, just wait it out. Wait until we've got something stable that appears to be evergreen and not just continuously changing. To make changes during a change is like the worst thing you could do for SEO. hey, Google's updating their algorithm. Let's go make a bunch of changes. No, let's wait.
Exactly.
Well, and let's make sure that this is a final end all thing, and then let's adjust. But like you said, it's all happening so fast. So we're all keeping up with it to keep clients happy, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting for the client, with all the concern and worry, and it's exhausting for the SEOs that are having to adapt to their clients' urgency for something that shouldn't be urgent. Right?
Yeah, for sure. 6 to 12 months from now, Steve, what do you want to be? Where do you want to be with your business, and what predictions do you have?
I think we've nailed our niche, like I'd mentioned. I have a feeling next year, by this time next year, new site will be up, new book will, have gotten some level of reviews and hopefully taken off. I think people will remember me from franchise expos and events and so forth. I feel like we'll be positioned to be the go-tos for multi-location and franchise brands that are trying to figure out what their strategy looks like. So not just doing SEO, but they actually have a game plan, a roadmap, a timeline, and a measurable KPI tracking set up. I think that's kind of what we should be based on how we're road mapping our own business. But there's also other things too, like books. There's a lot more books I want to write about the industry and experiences. A lot more I want to write about content and really creating great content as a small business with limited bandwidth to do it. Travel. There's a lot more travel now that the kids are grown up that my wife and I want to do. So maybe a little digital nomad in our future. So
Yeah,
next year we have Route 66 and a fall foliage trip up in New York, New Hampshire planned.
fabulous.
So I'm excited for that, and hopefully I can do some writing and content creation while we're on the road, and kind of make a business slash leisure trip out of it. But we'll see.
Sure. Yeah, sounds great. Well, how can people get a hold of you, Steve?
Sure. I'm still remembered by some of my peers as SEO Steve. So if you were to do a query for SEO Steve, you'd probably find me all over the place. I've got, of course, our website. We've got all the social media set up with both Wiedemann and my own personal profile for SEO Steve. I respond pretty quickly, usually within an hour, unless I'm on a call. So anyone who wants to reach out and just say, hey, Wiedemann, can you take a look at why this page isn't performing well or what this competitor's up to? I love a challenge. Send along anything you'd like me to kind of take a look at. There's no salespeople here. We're just a small group of consultants trying to meet amazing people. And even if we don't end up working together, hopefully you'll enjoy the relationship enough that we could, be a reference for you if somebody says, hey, who should we hire for SEO strategy? You'd be like, oh, these Wiedemann guys are really good. So love to connect with anyone and everyone. And it's always me. It's not an assistant. So please reach out, and love to help you however I can.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you and learning more about Wiideman Consulting and SEO Steve. I see it in the background there. It's on the wall.
That's it. 28 years.
Yeah, awesome. Wow. Well, thank you so much.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for giving me a chance to just talk shop and AI and SEO, and it's been a lot of fun.